Hello everyone. Hello Diana K. Good to see you. We are going to be finishing off. I say that laughing because that last 11 by 17 really took a long time. It took like 3 videos to complete it. Well, I had to take off early one of those days, but a very large piece. And again, we're sitting here with a very large piece again. And I was debating at right up until this last minute of how I was going to finish it off. I do want some light beams to be running through these trees, but kind of the color scheme, I was kind of debating on how to do that. And one of the things I was thinking about was doing the spot coloring type of thing, where this all was kind of a grayscale type of thing, but these fall foliage types of leaves were standing out in yellow, red, and everything like that. But then with that, I didn't think I could have like these strong light beams coming through. I mean, I guess you could, but I don't know. I was looking at my supplies and I thought, let's just make this a blue one. I want to make this go reasonably fast, and I just have a ton of blue media, including a lot of the large 3mm paint pens. Hello, Donna. All right, so here's my thought. I was looking at some different moons that I have in the line, and I was thinking I might want something a little bit stronger and bolder, so I might just go with a hole punch type of scenario here with the moon. So this is like a 1-inch hole punch, I'm guessing, and I'm just going to go with that, okay, and do it in a post-it if I got some of that on there. I guess I didn't. I didn't get... I need some of that edge part there. Let me see if I can aim for that a little bit better. Okay, let's see. Yeah, if I can get this hole punch to work. It's so old. All right, so let's see here. How is everyone today? All right, I'm going to go with this moon, like right here. It's going to be peeking out right in between those trees. Okay. We'll go with something like this here. Hello, CM Hawkins. Hello, Don. All right. This is an old... Anyone have one of these old hole punches? It's stuck now. I'll get that later. Okay. So that's my moon. All right. Still composing here in my head. I'm thinking about some clouds in here. And in what color, I don't know. Okay, this is what I was originally thinking when I was chatting with all of you. When was it? I don't know, whatever those last couple videos was, but when I was looking at this, I was thinking of a nighttime color scheme with some moonbeams kind of running through the trees here. But I also have a lot of the kind of shimmery types of media these days, so maybe I'll grab it right now so I won't forget. But like the Wink of Stella, I might use some embossing with these embossing pens here. I don't know what for, but I'm just thinking I want this to be kind of dark, but then when you hold this up, I want some kind of shimmery, silvery, kind of reflective types of qualities in the water, and anything reflective. It could be on the rocks too or something like that. So a lot of those kind of subtle blingy types of elements running through here, and I think that would be kind of cool. Hello, Jane. Hello, Sandy, Beth, Verna. Thanks everyone for joining in here. Thanks for joining in. Anyone kicking back in the background, not on the chat board, thanks for joining in, checking out the vid here. We'll try to move this along reasonably fast, whatever that means on this channel, I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to go in with some clouds down here. Now these trees are going to get really dark, okay? So I don't need to worry I don't know if that's the word. I don't even need to consider, you know, stamping cloud over tree, okay? Because the tree is going to be dark anyway, darker. So I can just go right in here with this extra texture. When I stamp at my sky elements, I typically wipe off the edges. Unless it's going to be on a very dark area, then you don't need to do that because it's going to be toned in anyway. All right, so this is just giving me a little bit of a head start on texture and coloring in between those trees, okay? So you don't have to do it, but like I said, you know, like on my larger piece, I filled in with some clouds just because it gives you a really nice head start in terms of coloring and lighting and stuff like that. Sometimes I even put it down in my water. Why don't we do that too? It's just so that you're not starting with something blank and you have to be kind of really, you know, a little bit more careful about blending and filling in those areas, okay? So when you put a little bit of texture down there like that, it's just kind of a nice head start. And from a textural standpoint, I like having those softer elements to contrast against harder, darker shapes in here. Anyway. Hey, looks like a couple people are almost neighbors there, huh? That is cool. All right, so we have this area in here. No, we're going to be coloring. All right, now here's the thing that I always kind of go over with my first couple of my classes are used to in workshops. I still teach them. I need to schedule my workshops, by the way, and get those going. The first and second class is a lot about color application. Hello, Teresa. And one of the things about that is, and I just say this because this is the comment that I've had over the years, okay? A lot of times people get, you know, a lot of the processes down very quickly, okay? In terms of the overlapping of imagery, for one. That's the main thing about composing with Stampscape stamps. You know, you really want to overlap things well, okay? So you have an integrated surface here full of your imagery, and you don't have big gaps in between them, like in between, like, say, the trees and these rocks or something like that. Even if you do get some of that, if you're a beginner, don't worry about it, because you're going to be coloring in a lot of that anyway. But if you have kind of inherently everything merging, you know, that's a nice head start, okay? You don't have to merge it with additional tone. And again, we do that anyway, so a lot of times you won't even be able to see it if you do have gaps. But I know it bothers people to say, oh my gosh, I got like a little, you know, there's a 16th inch right here that's filled, you know, that doesn't match up perfectly, you know what I mean? Some people are like that. But, okay, they get all that, but with the coloring, okay, they're still used to doing whole area colors. So if this is water down here, they're thinking about coloring in that whole area, just say blue or something like that. Or this tree, it's all colored in uniformly, okay? I'm going to have my moon here, so these trees over here are going to be, for the most part, colored in a little bit more on their right-hand side, so that the lighter, you know, the area facing the light is going to be lighter. So trees to the left of the moon are going to be left side shaded. Trees to the right of the moon, right side shaded, okay? For the most part, like I said, you know, when we get into it, I'll show you how to tweak things if you do color everything, you know, too much. Then you just use contrast and make things a little bit darker. Crazy Cat, hello. Annie, good to see you. All right, so coloring in. We're starting with re-inkers. If there's anything that you take from any of my, you know, demonstrations and whatnot, especially when you're working this size like this, if you have a lot of tone to fill in, this will make your life a lot easier. And I'm talking about the re-inker fluid on your applicator, whatever it happens to be, a sponge or whatever, okay? All right, so let's go in with this. We're gonna have this lighting coming from over here. So a lot of times what I do is I start on the darker areas, the area farthest away from that. Does that make sense? And we just go in and start coloring in. If you're working with things like roads, paths, streams, or something like that. Anything kind of reflective, like water, okay? I usually like to leave things like that a little bit lighter, okay? So that they're reflecting the light. So we're coming in here, and these areas of these waterfalls, like here, here, and here, I'll have them remain a little bit lighter. And then this right here, you might not be able to tell, but that's a little bit of the water going down to the fall area like that. Okay? All right. Let's see. A starter kit, Jane, that would be the nature sets. I recommend, like sets number 6, 8, or 9 are really good starter sets. And it covers a lot of the thing that's about the starter sets is that they cover a lot of the filler imagery, okay? So things like water pattern and things like that. The cloud cumulus is a good fill-in for skies. And the filler stamps are not the kind of the sexiest stamps, so to speak, okay? They're not something that really stand out, you know, because they're just like texture or something like that. But they can be the most important ones because you can use them in just about almost any type of setting, okay? You know, a water texture stamp can be used in tropical, forest, desert, you know. It could be used anywhere, stuff like that. A cloud is, you know, a cloud, so it can be used in any type of sky. It could be used in a nighttime sky. Daytime, morning, noon, night, whatever season or something like that. It's a really good filler stamp. So, yeah, those ones. Set 7's good too. And there's a lot of lessons that are based on those sets as well. There's, I don't know, there's a gazillion lessons based on nature set number 8, for example. Okay, so anyways, see this right here? See this, how this water is starting to stand out a little bit more? And you want that from waterfalls, you know. You want waterfalls to really kind of stand out. They're a standout type of feature out in a given landscape. And if you color them all in, now a lot of people think, okay, water's blue. Well, waterfalls really aren't, you know, blue like that, okay? Maybe they'll have tinges of it, but there's so much churning water in them. They're really oxygenated, so they're like white, you know, with oxygen. Doesn't matter what time of day it is either, okay? Even at nighttime or, you know, that type of scenario. Hello, Jeannie. Yeah, but okay, here's the thing too. I want some of these rocks to be reflecting some of the light that's being cast upon them. Now, you don't have to think about like, okay, wait a minute. If that moon is my light source, would that rock be lit or would that one? It doesn't matter. Just have some of them lit and some of them darker. There's certain areas in the designs themselves that are darker, okay? And I just reiterate that with more tone. I'm doing it with a really light color again here. You know, I am thinking about certain things like, you know, the side of this tree right here, you know, is going to be closest to the moon. It's going to be that lit on that side. So on the side of the tree, that's farthest away from that light source is being toned out. Okay. Well, I don't know. It's not being toned out, but it's being toned. Okay. So same thing with right here. So in other words, don't get too kind of, you know, confused about lighting or anything like that. The biggest thing is, okay, is that you just oscillate your use of tone in some areas, okay? If I left that rock light and this one was darker, this one's lighter right here, this one's light. I wasn't thinking about all that. A lot of it just kind of starts coming together and I just kind of reiterate it. Okay, it's like, okay, I made that little thing darker, so I'm going to make it darker, you know, even more dark. And the areas that I've just retained some light, those are the areas that are just going to be lit throughout this entire toning process right here, okay? Things like that down here. If if you've watched my videos in the past, you've known that this term that I've used that I got from one of my instructors, they just called it checkerboarding, okay? So it's a little bit darker here, light, dark, light, you know, darker up here, that type of thing. So it's this oscillation of values across your surface like that. How long do reinkers on paper towels last versus ink pads? Well, Candy, I'm just using it for this one scene, so, you know, you don't, I went kind of, oh, you mean the reinkers on the paper towels in terms of how much ink you use? Oh, well, I don't know. Probably, it just depends how wet your pad is, I guess. You know, how much ink you take in there. But when you put a few drops of ink on a paper towel like that, have I re-inked this yet? I don't know. I can't remember. Did I re-ink it twice so far? One of you will have to remind me. I don't remember. But this is an 8.5 by 11. There's no way that I'm going to dip this into a pad, okay, and take it on here. I would probably got maybe a 1/10, if that, of coverage with an initial color, okay? Now, we're not going to do this with all colors. We're doing it with our base layer color because it covers so much area. And plus, with your base layer colors, remember, you're not only coloring, but you're also kind of saturating the surface a little bit, okay? And that just makes the process so much easier for all of those other colors that we're going to be applying in here. Let's see. Let's see. PJB Stamper, just unsubscribe to everyone except the Stampscapes channel. That's going to save you a lot of time. All right, so adding this in around here. I want to make this kind of darker, you know, too. So like really dark in here. I think that'll be really dramatic. I've done this composition before, as I've mentioned in the past. I want to make it different than those ones, though, okay? So I'm going to go fairly dark. See, I'm still toning with this one here, you know, this thing. And you can see it's really picked up some of that black ink on there. But hey, so be it, you know. It's just a... now, I don't want to be smearing imagery or something like that if it was freshly stamped, but... we do want this to be fairly dark, so getting some of that gray within the blue, no big deal, right? Because I'm going to be using black on here anyway. Okay, so you know, get pretty good coverage with this. Every color that we go through is not going to take this long, so you know, spend a little bit more time with your lightest of tones like this, and get a really good kind of a value scheme going that you can follow with your, you know, incrementally darker colors as you go through whatever value scale you want. Now this one's going to be easy. I'm not doing like my tree trunks brown and my sky, you know, some sunset color scheme, and this water down here, you know, some form of purples and, you know, blues or something like that reflecting some of that sky. So this one's going to be fairly easy when we're talking about a, you know, a moonlit night type of scene right here. If you want to make your scenes go out fast, make them nighttime scenes. Yeah, it's just blues. I don't always do that. Sometimes I change up and I'll work, you know, another colors, you know, into it. I'm going to try something here. This is Paris Dusk. Let me see what that color is looking like. It's a little bit violet. And let's just give it a try. I just did a little bit in there. Let's see what this looks like. I don't know if it'll merge really well with some of the other blues, but let's just try it here. Well, it's not too bad. See, it's a little bit of a, kind of a, it has a slight bit of red in it for that violet. It's almost, Paris does look like it would relate to, we were talking about it before, that blueprint sketch color, which I didn't use in my last scene, just, I don't know. I'll use it somewhere. I do like it a lot. Okay, that looks pretty good. Look at that Paris dust right there, so you can see what that looks like from that side to that side. It's not a huge leap, right? It's just kind of an incremental, not jump, but step from that previous color, right? Okay. just start it in your darker areas. Okay. And here's the thing, you know, if you've just started doing these things, and it doesn't matter what color, I mean, what media you're working in, if you're working in colored pencils or pastels or something like that, just remember to retain those lighter areas in there. And it doesn't mean you can't put some color in there, but if you do, kind of maintain the lighter aspect of it so that it looks like lighting as opposed to like a darker, you know, flowing liquid in this case, okay? All right. That Paris dust goes quite a bit darker, doesn't it? Unless I'm just picking up more of that black ink on here, okay? Let's see. Oh, no re-inking yet. Okay, so that was just one inking, so that's not too bad, right? Now, if you don't have, you know, I didn't always use re-inkers, okay, but yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like, oh my gosh, this is taking a lot less time. And when you have some Rinker fluid on this, it's like, I don't know, it's just like taking a brush and painting, and where you're getting a really good flow. Now, we don't always want that, though. We want some applications to be kind of a dry brush, but when we're talking about a lot of coverage with the first couple colors, you know what I mean? Just make your life so much easier. And I don't know, it's kind of a more ergonomic way to work, too, when this just really glides nice and easy and fast and everything like that. You're not getting all like worn out, you know, by the I don't know, fifth color, let's say, for example. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't re-inked with the Paris Dusk on this one either, so it's like, you know what I mean? This is a lot of color on here, and I'm saturating the page in a lot of areas right here, and all I did was put a couple drops of ink on this, so easy time. So, okay, so everyone's always, I get the comment all the time. It's just like, you make it look so easy. Oh, yeah, I enjoyed watching it. And you make it look so easy. Well, it's because I use easy things that I try to make it as easy a process as possible. So it's like over time, I've kind of distilled down all of the things that I do into the fewest kind of steps as possible. So if it comes to something like toning something or inking up, I mean, some things there's no working around it. You just have to go through the, you know, whatever step it is. You know, if I'm embossing something, you know, I don't know if you can really, I don't know, speed that up. You're going to, you know, pour powder on it, and, you know, you can't like skip the, you know, if it's heat embossing, you can't skip the heating. But with things like this, you know, you can really save yourself a lot of time. And then it also, when you do stuff like this, when you're talking about the blending of colors too, it takes care of all that too, because it's so much easier to blend that way when you have more ink to blend with, or when you're applying wet inks on kind of a little bit of a saturated surface like that. It's so much easier than a surface that's really absorbing everything really quickly and giving you kind of a, you know, an application that you can't move around. So on here, you know, I can go like this and really spread it around like that, and it's not any big deal. Okay, so adding this in like so. I think I'm being a little bit too conservative with my application of ink through here. I don't want that to be too light. I don't want it to be too dark either, though, because of those light beams. I don't want them to look kind of awkward, like it's so dark that there wouldn't be light beams in here too. So keeping that in mind, but there's a lot of leeway, okay? All right, so that was the Paris Dust. Paris Dust really changed things quite a bit, I think. Now, I mean, someone could just do it like this and be done with it. PJB Stamper, we won't hold it against you. Actually, we're looking forward to the Tired Sillies comments. We never know what's going to be in the chat here between, you know, what chocolate, milk chocolate versus dark. What was it? Boneyards, you know. Is investigated. If people, I don't know, if you guys know what I'm talking about, if you were in the last live stream, you know, it's like corpses and, you know, talking about chocolate, and then the next minute's, you know, it's talking about, you know, what are, you know, those yards where they, I don't know, have like bodies in various states of decay, you know, for investigative data purposes. Okay, so adding this down, Caribbean blue, right? It doesn't look like Caribbean blue because it's overlapping a lot of the other colors underneath, including black. So going in like so. By the way, the 11 by 17 piece, I've been looking at that the past few days, and it really it kind of grew on me. There's certain types of things that I like in scenes. It's like having somewhat of a central focus, or a really definitive focus on some areas, and that one was just so big. It's just, instead of the focus being in an area that's, you know, 2 inches wide or something like that. Hello, Glenda. Phyllis, good to see you. The area's wide. It's just, it was like, I don't know. And there's several different areas on there, I've realized. So it's like my eye doesn't go to any one thing, I don't think. Or it hasn't yet. Nothing real super definitive, but it's like the whole mountain range or something like that. That's like, or an 8-inch wide area, so. Yeah. Okay, so adding this in, Caribbean blue. Okay, now here's where people lose their lighting too, okay? It's when they go into these darker tones, you know, this is like a medium tone color, maybe a little bit less, maybe like a 40% or something like that. But it's really easy to lose these lit areas, because if they take this into those areas with, you know, a fairly wet applicator, you're leaving a fairly definitive dark streak like that, okay? Whereas if you went into those areas with your, you know, any of the previous 2 or 3 colors, they're so light to begin with, you know, it would just leave a very dull application of it. So just, you know, just be mindful of that when using your medium to darker toned colors, okay, darker value colors. Okay. All right. So coming in here a little bit, it's a little bit too light right there. So we want to come into that a decent amount. I can use my Dr. Martin's bleed proof white in here too. All right. Right. Getting there. Okay. Now these areas are a little bit too stark white, but it's just going to be a lot easier to come in to those areas and add in some tone using an alcohol marker too. Okay. Something, you know, a lot more detailed like that. All right. So adding in. Does everyone have a nice range of blue tone values in your dye-based inks? The one thing a lot of people don't have when it comes to dye-based inks are those lighter tones. Okay, you don't need a ton of them, but the Cadbury mini eggs. They're often the ones that I used first. So get yourself a really good light tone in something. What was that? What was that blue distress ink that I have? Broken Glass or something like that? That one's a really good one because it's really bright too. Okay. I think I'm out of that one. I don't know. I need to place an order for a bunch of inks coming up at some point in time. Antique Linen Re-Inker. And you don't, like I said, if there are colors that you don't have in pad form, you can always just get the re-inker, okay? If you're not going to be stamping something in a certain color, then you really don't need the pad, right? So just get the re-inker, and then you can just put, apply it to your applicators, and these re-inkers hold, I don't know, what, I'm guessing 2 or 3 times the amount, at least twice the amount of ink that is in a pad too, okay? Let's see, what is the best kind of paper to use for this? Well, if you want a glossy finish, then use glossy cardstock. If you want to have do a scene that you can use dry media on, say, as well as wet media, then go with a matte cardstock. I'm pretty, I'm for the most part, it's cardstocks for me, because cardstocks have that clay coating on them. So you tend to get the best impression quality with a paper that's coated, okay? But that being said, if you're going for kind of a real textural type of quality to a scene, then I've seen a lot of scenes done on, not as much lately. There's one person that uses a lot of textured types of papers on Facebook, things like linens and things like that, and they look amazing to me, okay? So it just depends. There's not really any type of thing, but if you're going for something specific, I got to show you, someone did something on a watercolor paper. I can't even remember the names of all the media, but it was real shimmery types of media. They sent it to me in an or not email, but they sent me a physical card, and I need to post it, but real super shimmery. And like I said, I didn't know how they did it, and it's because when I asked them about it, it's like their whole listing of items, like I never even heard of them before, okay? And it looked really amazing. So you use the media and surface combinations that are going to work for you, going for whatever type of look you're going after. Verna, I'm with you at the summer sky. That one's a great one. Phyllis had a slice of buttermilk pancake. Pound cake. That sounds pretty good. I can't have buttermilk anymore with my lactose intolerance. I want to use like buttermilk for like for like fried chicken and all that. And I miss like things like chicken pot pies and like that type of thing. All right, so adding this in. All right, so one of those things. Okay, so but back to that media type of thing. If you're going for a real postcardy look, since postcards are printed most often on glossy cardstock, then you'd use the glossy cardstock for that. Okay. If you want to go for foils, and a real super, kind of a reflective type of quality, then you'd use foils for that. And what color foil do you use? But you have to use the right media that are going to be able to dry on those things. So that being said, sometimes I know some people that, well, maybe, I don't know lately, but there used to be a lot of places that taught Stampscapes, different types of applications of Stampscapes, and one of them was a store that was in kind of the Silicon Valley, Bay Area, California, and they used 100% chalks on all of their, with all of their classes, and they looked really cool. These days, it'd be probably more the pan pastels or something like that. I don't see, does anyone use chalks here anymore? Like those little tablet chalks. I don't see it anymore, or as much of it. And then they used to have those little kind of foam applicators that were about the size of like a Q-tip, but it was of the foam, and then they'd go in there and color in like that. But you wouldn't do that on like a glossy cardstock because chalks aren't going to stick to it. So, yeah. Okay. Sandy, how did you get rid of that then? What do you mean? You had it severe, but you're fine now. Something happened, huh? I'm not dairy intolerant, but it's the lactose. You know, I can have like dry cheeses, you know, and you know, stuff like that, but not like a wet cheese, you know, or like a cream cheese. All right. So I'm in like so. All right. A little bit too light, like I said, but I'm going to be going in and coloring certain things after this with other things. Oh, I want to use a bunch of my, look at this. One of the things with these paint pens and certain sets, there's 4 values and shades of blue in that set. So I'm going to make this look a little bit more extreme this time, you know, with like shimmery types of things. It's going to look really weird, I know, but I want to see how it goes though too with that. Foam applicators for pan pastels. Good, good. Haven't used my chalks and yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about with Crazy Cat. A lot of people use those chalks like crazy back when, but yeah, I haven't seen it being used a lot, so Huh, I didn't know that about the cycles of like food allergies like that. Huh. There's so many more allergies going on these days, kind of volunteering at the school, the elementary school. It's like every kid, in every single one of the classes, my son's classes, one of those kids had that peanut allergy. And I never even heard of that peanut allergy until I was like an adult. And one of my friends had that. Hello, Jen. Good to see you. Thanks for joining in. All right, so I'm getting a little bit darker in here as I go, okay? I'm kind of reluctant in some ways, so I get, you know, when you know, all of you kind of run into certain types of questions or issues, because I run into those same type of things in my pieces. Not really with the 1/4-inch ones, you know, the smaller pieces, because there's less kind of coverage and decision making to do on those types of things. But all right, let's go in with this blue. If you're going in with certain blue and it's like, okay, I can't see anything happening at all, then just move on to your next color, okay? If it's not influencing the surface whatsoever, then you don't have to stick with it. But if you have it, you might as well just try it out, is what I always say. All right, and the more layers you put down of certain colors too, or you know, of colors in general, you know, when you spray seal this, if you do spray seal it, and I'd really recommend everyone spray seal their pieces. It will look so much deeper in the end result from having utilized all of these transparent layers of colors that you're adding in like this. So this is one of those things. I mean, spray sealing, it can protect things, and it helps to kind of make a lot of colors more intense, if that's what you're going after. If you're going for something really subtle, then maybe don't do that, you know, like something very pastel-y and light and airy, you know, then maybe you don't want kind of stronger saturations or something like that. But you know, if you're working with dye-based inks can really use a little bit of a kind of a helping hand. Just in general, from what I've found, you know, a lot of things look really good when you stamp it out or when you color it in, but when it dries, especially on matte paper or something like that, you know, you can get that extra little zip of intensity and, I don't know, vibrancy in your colors again. And when you're doing something like this, you get the color depth when you're adding layer after layer after layer like that. Hello, Bobby. Good to see you. All right, so adding in like so. I hope everyone had a pleasant 4th of July weekend. Didn't have any, you know, dogs kind of trying to run for the hills and whatnot. All right, adding in. So the retention of light, right? I should take a peek at this moon thing here. There's my moon right there. I can probably take this off. Nah, let's leave it on there a little bit longer and go a little bit darker around there. Hello, Cecile. Okay, adding in. If I go dark enough too, I don't know if I'll do it on this one. It might look kind of weird. Unless this was like a snowy scene too. Oh, huh. We can do that. You know how people do that Christmas in July? I can, you know, you can, if you're right, super hot at home and it's sweltering heat, it's muggy. You know, where's Annie in Florida? You know, where it's super hot or something, or someone, I don't know, the air's blasting. Then do a winter in July scene. You know, all right, coming along. This is number 10 blue, and this is one of those colors that I often recommend to people if they want to supplement their existing pads, you know, of their brands. The number 10 blue is a really good one because it's really super bright and rich. So if you mix it with, you know, any of your other tones within the, you know, whatever layering, it doesn't have to be, it could be anywhere. It could be the first color, the last color that you use, you know. It'll brighten things up really nicely as far as your intensity spectrum goes, you know, from dull to light. Bright, okay. All right, let's see. Let's move through. This is getting a little bit saturated, so my applications of ink. And look at this. We're still using our same paper towel. A couple people told me recently they can't use their paper towels because they're textured like this, right? Well, mine are all textured too. And it's because they're going like this, and they're taking ink like this, okay? And then when they apply it, of course, it's giving you that textured look like that, right? But, you know, I mean, these are paper towels, so you just go like this, okay? And you just rub it down like that, right? And then you have a softer application. You don't have to get that texture like that, okay? I mean, I can dab it like this too, and I'm still getting a little bit of that texture, but just flatten it down accordingly, and then you just have, you know, that. I mean, you can see, let's see that texture, right? But I'm using like that part right there. So that's what this one looks like. It's the same paper towel. I mean, this one started off like this one, right? Okay, so just, you know, just use a different touch or something like that. You can get these really soft. That almost looks like chalks though, doesn't it? So, you know, just think about like that. I'm with you, Beth. It's a little bit too early for Christmas. It's even too early for like Halloween, right? If people do Halloween cards or, you know, things like that. Okay. It's Inkit Glossy Brochure Paper. PJB. I'm not sure what PJB you're referring to. Are you referring to something else someone else mentioned here? Or something else something that I said? A background using bokeh. Okay, Ava, no. The most I do with that is I'll put something kind of obscured with you know, white ink or something like that. I'll push something into the background. Everyone knows what bokeh is. It's like when you take a photograph and they kind of do that thing with those, you know, when it's really out of focus and it gives those kind of those little roundish or, you know, kind of more ornamental types of backgrounds, okay? And that's a really kind of desirable type of look, especially in like portrait photography. But you can do that with anything in the background. It's like that super, shallow depth of field type of thing going on. And I do try to go for that in some ways. A lot of times I'll stamp my foregrounds in a really dark and crisp way, just to contrast against kind of the more obscure types of things going on in the background through the use of white pigment ink, okay? But bokeh, I'm not trying to go for that in these scenes, but I do go for kind of a, obscurity and kind of a little bit of an out of focus type of look. So you're contrasting crisp against diffused and soft, okay? It sounds like complicated, but it's not, folks. It's just, taking your white pigment ink and obscuring things, And then you leave it like that, or you can stamp something over the top of it that looks nice and crisp, so you get that kind of, dark against light, sharp against soft, and, I don't know, it could be intense against dull, or something like that. Okay, this blue is kind of, I don't know, it's applying faster than I thought it would and darker than I thought it would here. Okay. Now, when you're going with really dark tones, be careful not to obscure the areas that you want to remain light, or objects that you want to remain light. See, here's this tree right here. You can darken in the side of the tree, opposite, the light source right there. Hello, Joy. Thanks for joining in. Good to see you. If anyone else, anyone else on checking it out, thanks for joining in here. And this, and you see, every time I do, next color, it's going kind of incrementally a little bit darker. Although this Prussian blue is really influencing the overall, isn't it? Boy, is that dark. I don't know, it applied like a lot slower in that 11 by 17. I don't know if it's because the page was like so much wetter. I don't know. The pulp of the page, maybe. But see, even at its wettest point, you can still use, a much lighter application of it, right? Than it in its full value like that, okay? So you really utilize your lighter applications of all of your different inks, and you'll get a lot of mileage out of them in terms of the different values you can achieve by just using a drier version of it, okay? Now I'm going really dark here, okay? You don't have to, that's not, necessarily what people have to do. I mean, it looked kind of cool having it kind of a foggy, kind of diffused look with just those first couple colors, that were, used in here. I'm just going for something, I'm building this up through all these different tones. It almost looks green in here, doesn't it? For the sake of, all these other textures that I'm going to be doing with these types of things. And Dr. Martens, I was hoping good. I did clean my toothbrush, which I often forget to do for that look. Okay. All right, I think I can go in here with black. Okay, before I do that, let's do what we did in that last video where I used some antique linen. This is looking a little bit stark to me in terms of if this was on a color wheel, would this be this like small segment of it? It'd be these blues in here going in a little bit of the blue-green, okay? So I want to really expand it a little bit with the use of something like this. So if you have like old paper or antique linen in this case, one of those distress inks like that, or, it could be any brand of inks, okay, but something kind of light, you can use it in here. And it's not going to affect things too much. Like, it's not going to, if I apply it in here, I don't think you'll be able to see it at all. But in these lighter areas, I think it'll really show up. And I don't know. I'll see how this goes. Maybe I'll use some of it on the trees too, or something. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So kind of a dry brush touch with this too. Okay. Oh, yeah. And I do have some of these different types of colors that look like this in the alcohol. Can you see that right there? See the difference between there and, you know, here, that white there? I mean, it's just a little bit of a warm tinge, right? It's kind of nice to have that in there. And it's very subtle. It's not something that, I don't know, really stands out very much at all, but it is a temperature change. So you can see the difference between this one and this one. Doesn't that look a little bit more full to you like that? It's a little tweak in the temperature range of your piece by having that little bit of warmth in there. And like I said, you can do this too with alcohol inks, maybe even more carefully and more specifically in, you know, specific areas and objects, okay? Let's see that right there, like right in there. See that little thing like that? It's just a different tone, it's warm. So that's a lot of things that I do, you know, when I'm doing a really warm scene, I'll usually slip a tiny bit of like a pale, you know, light blue somewhere, and in really cool, otherwise cool spectrum scenes that are just dominated, I'll have a little bit of warmth in there just to tweak it a little bit. Okay, it doesn't have to be balanced or anything like that, equal parts, you know, cool and warm, but just having a little bit in there like that. I don't know, it just kind of fills things out a little bit more, I think. All right, so Ferna, I'm with you. It's one of those things. It makes a huge difference in like a minute, you know, such a minute application, right? I mean, that is practically like white right there, but because there's so much contrast in here, you know, it really stands out. In just in terms of that temperature contrast. Okay, so that is that. Let's see. Let's use my trusty applicator here. This is like a quarter piece of I don't think it's even a quarter piece of paper towel. It's like, I don't know, like a fifth or something like that. You can really get a lot of coverage with just one applicator here, okay? All right, so black, all right. It's a big jump in value. It's pretty dark. Okay, so be mindful about your application. See that right there? And this tree, I'm starting to get that glare going in here. Sorry about that. Where do you add it? I'm adding it around on the perimeter first, and then I will work a little bit more on the interior. Yeah, Joy, play around with things like little tweaks, okay? So I have a little breakdown of color, I think. I forgot what I called it, though. Language of color, properties of color, something like that. Color, you have hue. What hue is it? You know, is it blue, green, red, whatever, pink. And then you have value, which is light and dark versions of whatever those hues are, right? And then you have intensity, which is dull and bright. This right now is, everything is looking fairly bright on here, but that's where the white pigment ink comes in. And when I lay white pigment ink over certain things, it dulls it out, and I get kind of a more of a pastel type of look in those areas. So I get my range of intensity expanded by doing that. Okay, so that doesn't have to be like a hard type of thing. If you just use a little bit of pigment ink in your pieces, you'll probably be doing that. You'll probably be expanding on your range of intensity, okay? And then, of course, we have light and darks in here, you know, retain your lighter areas. But that little temperature thing could be big, too. Okay, so that, and it can be a very easy thing to do. You can just put, if it's, in your warm areas, put a little bit of cool, in cool areas, put a little bit of warmth somewhere. And you just go with the lightest tone you can. If I didn't have, this antique linen, if you have something like this pen here, this is kind of the same tone like this, right? And you can just go in and you can just add a little bit of that in there, okay? Like so. And you get a little bit of that. See that little rock in there? I can't get that rock with this, So you just go like this. And you get that little tiny bit of warmth in there. Like that, so. This. Anyways, I'll be adding more of this later. Okay, so. All right. See this right here where I'm kind of adding a little bit of shadow right here? That makes, this whole rock is like, it's almost like mono value right now, okay? This one. So what I'm doing is I'm adding some tone at the base of it to make that area look lighter. So I'm not like bleaching this area out to make it look lighter. I'm just making the area at the base of it darker so that the top area seems lighter by contrast. So if you ever make something that went, oh my gosh, I made it too dark, right? Then you just make an area around it darker so that the area that you thought was too dark looks lighter by contrast. So that's another thing you can do. You can play around with those different things like that. So it's not like, you're at the point of no return type of thing. Okay. Provided, the whole scene didn't go all the way to black or something like that where you can't see anything anymore, then, it's too late. But usually it is not. Okay. Okay. So adding this in like so. Okay. The whole scene was looking a little bit too bluish to me, but I knew that I was going to add in black over the top of it to add additional shadows and such. Like that over here, okay? So it's not so, I don't know, it's like a deep Prussian blue or something like that anymore. All right, now, do you guys notice this too? Everything's starting to look fairly harsh in here. You have a blue and then it's white like that, okay? That's where that pigment ink just solves all of that, okay? So if I were to just leave this as is, okay? If this was like the end, kind of result that I was going after, I wouldn't really be too happy with it. But like I said in previous videos, that white ink, pigment ink it blends everything out anyway. It solves all of these types of issues for me. If there's something I don't really like, and as long as it's not like in the darkness, but then if it was in the darkness, you wouldn't be able to see it. So it's typically things that are in the light. If there's certain things that, you're not quite into, about, I don't know, however way it came out, then you just obscure it a little bit with a little bit of white pigment ink. In stamping, it's always been kind of the joke that if you don't like something, you just stamp a tree over the top of it. Well, I do that too, but I also just obscure things with white ink too, so it takes care of all those different types of things. All right, so anyway, adding in this black in here, kind of giving it an overall vignette for containment, compositional containment, and focus in here. I want to add something down here, somewhere in here, maybe like a little deer or something like this, or someone right here I think would look good. So you can get this kind of cross kind of dynamic going. Maybe I'll put them in a beam of light or something like that too. This mat underneath my working space kind of drives me a little bit nuts because I've embossed on it, or not embossed by heat set. And this thing got a little bit warped, so it's like raised like a, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch or something like that. So it keeps slapping down when I tap on there. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but if you ever hear that and it's driving you nuts, let me know, and I'll hold the mat down like that a little bit. Okay, so anyway, the more you want certain areas to stand out, you just make the area next to it darker, okay? And like I said, this is like a moonlit scene, so I'm making things fairly dark in here. I'm going darker than what I would normally do if it was like a twilight or something like that, or a, I don't know, sunset or something like that scene. Okay. Testing. All right. That looks pretty dark. Oh, that little tone across the moon will probably be good too. Like that. Okay. So, let's see. That moon, I can stamp something in front of that moon too, like some birds or something like that. That might be kind of cool. All right, I think that is it as far as our tones go, okay? When did I start this? Okay, that was about an hour. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's about 15 minutes per quarter page card, and I took this one really, really dark right here. So, okay, so here's what I'm going to do too in here. Let's take a paper towel. This is looking a little bit, yeah, I mean, it looks okay to me, but I think it needs a little bit of variation in there. So, let's see. Let's go with this blue. Okay. Maybe I should do this with the pens, but I'll try it with the ink here. Okay, so this is what I'm going after. I'm going for a streak like this, and I'll streak it from the dark area in like that. So you're just getting a little bit of that kind of striations in the water that I like. So don't do it through the whole thing, but leave some areas just as is. Okay. Okay. Actually, this is influencing some of these other areas like that. So sometimes you can go back to another color that you've already thought you kind of applied in its full saturation. You can go back over it again and it's, you know, it reads a little bit more. All right. Verna, re-inkers. You don't want it to take you too long. This one got pretty dark though. Here's what it looks like without all these glares on there like that. So that's a pretty good foundation like that, okay? So here's the thing. I'm going to be using a lot of white pigment ink on here. And the areas that I'm going to do that in, I go a little bit more, okay? Now this one's pretty extreme, but I tend to go a little bit more in areas knowing that I'm going to come back into it, okay? Like this area right here is like really harsh. I mean, it looks okay, but it'll look better with textural variation, okay? And lighting. I mean, that white pigment ink does all of that. It does lighting. It brings in texture. It diffuses things. You know, kind of eradicates, you know, things that I did that were unintentional and undesirable, you know, like when I stamped at this tree right here, I don't know, I didn't press hard enough, and it was like the second impression, and it missed all in here. It's kind of filled in with color now too, so it's not really a big deal, but you know, it obscures things like that people don't think that I get in my scenes, you know, but I do all the time. Yeah, a mermaid sitting on the rock. Yeah, yeah, that'd be cool as if I had like a little horizon out there. That would be cool with you know, Seaside Cove or something like that. PJB, we'll see ya. Have a great dinner. Okay, let's see. All right, so alcohol ink pens, right? This one's going to be way too light here. Let me just go to a darker one. Okay, something like these right here. This one's like really, really light. This one's like the summer sky, like the first one that I used. But I mean, if you want to, you know, if you want to kind of bring in a little bit of tone onto, you know, some of your waterfalls, and you want to go with a really light one at first, why not do that? Okay. So yeah, it's just not as stark white in there. Now, see, here's this moon right here. You know, if I want to come across and, you know, put a, you know, some of these streaks in here, it's kind of, you know, reiterating what went on in the water too with these, you know, kind of streaks like this, right? All right, so you can come in like that. I can't get into some of these really narrow trees with a, you know, flattened paper towel, but you can certainly come into it with your pens like this, okay? So where's that color? Okay, so here's, oops, here's that color that I was mentioning right here. Let's bring in a little bit of this warm tone to that moon, like that, okay? See that right there? Here, let me see something. I need to readjust my camera here. Okay, that's a little bit better, but I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little bit of warmth in there now. Okay, now some people make their moons like yellow, okay? And that looks good, but if you make your moon like yellow or something like that, and if it's the thing that is casting your light within the scene, don't make the reflected light lighter than the light source, okay? So try to keep that one fairly light, or just make your reflected light a little bit darker, okay? Because the light source, in theory, should be the lightest thing in a scene. So, you know, if I'm going for, you know, some like yellow or something like that, it would be, you know, it'd be really good if you had like a pastel yellow, or you just took your yellow ink like this. This would be way too intense for that right there, but you just kind of put it on your paper towel, really blot it down where it's like very, very dry, and then you apply it like that, okay? Be careful around blues too, because if you get that yellow over the just a straight blue, you're going to get a green, which might not look bad, but just kind of blend it out a little bit, okay? So in other words, you know, the whole thing is just start light, and, you know, as light as you can, and work darker. You can work it light with the inherent values of your media, or you just use a very dry version of that media, okay? And you can get, you know, super, super light tones like that, okay? So if you start with yellow, you know, and it's as dry as this thing is right now, it'd be like a really pale yellow, and just build it up to wherever you want it to get to, okay? I get it, though. People go like this, and they think, wait a minute, you know, I can't see anything like that. So they want to go darker, and then they do that, you know, and it's, you know, much darker. So just kind of build it up like that. There's a little bit of lightness, and you go a little bit darker, darker, and darker. And you can get darker, you know, just with more applications of it. But when you do it like that, you have like complete control over how much is applied. And you don't run into any kind of, you know, you'll run into like less undesirable, unexpected marks that come about like that. Okay. All right, so here's some other blues. I don't know if I need to go in and do too much of this. I think, you know, the dye-based ink took care of a lot of that. Actually, this is looking pretty decent on here. I can see that. tone on here. But so see, like at the base of this rock right here, I'm just adding in some of this alcohol ink like this. You can get into these little detailed areas like that. But see this, now this rock is lighter on the top than on the side like that, okay? There's certain rocks that I just couldn't color because they were just too small, so you can do it with this type of thing. Okay, now if you go in with something like this and it's like, oh my god, that was too dark, then you just go in and blend it in. You know, use your blender pen, use, you know, whatever pen you want. A lighter tone of it. You can get down here in the shadows like this. Okay. Now here's this bizarre kind of thing that kind of happened in the last one. I'm going into here, and I don't know why, but you can kind of like remove some of the dye-based ink that you've already applied. Like, let me see right here. See this right here? I'm removing some of that dye-based ink that was on here. It should just be dissolving the other alcohol inks, but it's not. It's kind of going in there. Let me see. Let me go with that really super light blue one. Let me show you right here. Okay, so see this right here? This little area right here. Let me see if I can remove some ink like this. Like that. So see that glowing little rock? I don't know why we can do that, because I guess it's because there's so much dye-based ink on the surface or something like that. It's not physically putting the dye-based ink back into solution, but I'm able to manipulate it. Okay, so this is just going with a really light tone. So see this rock right here? Let me see if I can remove some of that. I don't know if it is. Maybe a little bit. It might be a little bit lighter throughout there. I guess it really shows down here just because it was so much darker to begin with, maybe. But that, I don't know, that kind of, I find that really bizarre, because I don't recall seeing or having that ability before. Hello, Crystal Fire. Good to see you. Crystal Fire is going to fall asleep while watching. Put a pillow right next to where you're watching here so that you can pick up all the tips kind of on a subconscious level, though. Is this live regularly scheduled? No. Is there a place to post our Stampscapes artwork? Well, people have posted on Facebook. If you have a Flickr.com account, FLICKR.com, you can get a free account and it allows you to post pieces. People post on that sometime that don't do, like social media like Facebook, and they don't want to do that. Like Flickr's a pretty good site for that. You can always email me if you don't want to do any of that. Sometimes people email me files, and I post it on the, the Flickr Stampscapes customer artwork album that I have. And sometimes I share it too, but it's always kind of fun to get feedback. Now look at that. See that? I'm removing ink on there and illuminating the top of that. So it's like a little kind of like bonus, like unexpected bonus thing. But look at that rock in there now. It's kind of getting some of that real kind of subtle light in there. So I'm just kind of, it's as if I was coloring the tops of some of these rocks in here, with like a lighter ink. But I don't know why it's showing up like that. But yeah, I'd love to see anyone's artwork, okay? I was mentioning earlier, someone sent me the that real iridescent kind of swampy thing. I don't know, is that person in here? But I asked her, I said, hey, can I share this? And she said, yeah. And she said the reason why she doesn't share, he hasn't posted anything, she just, she was thinking that her work wasn't up to the caliber of, stuff. But that's, it's not about that, people love seeing pieces. I love, one of the things that I love seeing a lot of are people's first scenes that they've ever done, Could be any type of technique. Could be, you know, their first time utilizing you know, glossy cardstock, or, you know, whatever, or just the stamps in general. But whatever techniques they're doing. But it's always fun seeing that, you know, that any level of experience. Okay, but look at that. That is really removing some of that ink. I couldn't see that one at all. Okay, because I didn't bother, you know, with specifics in this area. I just kind of toned the whole thing in, but I'm able to remove some of this, so like this. So it's kind of like, you know, like those little rocks in here and these little grooves like that, showing for some reason. For some reason. Why we're able to do that, I don't know. Who cares? It's just that we can do it, so it's a good thing. Let me see. Is that... There's a Stampscapes. What does that say? I don't have my glasses on. It looks like I can't read it. Oh, Stampscapes 2. Oh, yeah, Stampscapes 2. Yeah. Yeah, it's called Stampscapes on Facebook. It's called Stampscapes 2. It's because there was a Yahoo Stampscapes 2 group, so they called it Stampscapes 2 Facebook, I think. Stampscapes 2 Facebook, right? And then there's a Prodigy and AOL Stampscapes group too. I'm just joking. You know, anyone who used to be on those things, those platforms. Now, if anyone was on Prodigy, I'd be really shocked. Because that was like like AOL. When I first started off, though, one of the store owners, was on Prodigy, so that's how, you know, she would post whenever I had new designs out and she was carrying it or whatnot. But, you know, it really got the word out, you know, instantly, as opposed to kind of, you know, promoting in Rubber Stamp Madness, you know, or something like that, that came out like 4 months from, you know, the point of, you know, whatever you'd submit your, you know, your artwork or information on the, you know, your latest news or whatnot. Hello, Cheryl. Good to see you. Hello to anyone else that has joined in, checking out the piece. Okay, I'm going in with a little bit of a warm tone. So this is one of my favorite colors right here, brownish gray. You know, it's like not a big commitment to anything in particular, but it's a little bit of a earthy kind of warm tone. But I don't know if you could see it, but I've added it here, like in that tree. You know what I mean? Just so that everything isn't all blue. When I just add like one hue, okay, you know, we're talking about that, you know, the language of color hue. Sometimes it looks, you know, can be dramatic or something like that to go very monochromatic, but I just think that this looks a little bit better, at least in terms of this color scheme, to be adding in some of these little bit of a, you know, earthier, you know, very subtle brown tones like that, just to, and it's not really contrasting against the blues, but I don't know, it's just kind of filling it out a little bit more. Personally, I go for texture. You know, you might kind of see that, you know, I like textures, so when I'm adding in things like alcohol inks, I don't try to avoid texture in my piece. You know, I mean, a lot of times people will ask, I can understand it where if you're filling in a field of color and you don't want to have any kind of texturing, they want it to know how something blends, okay? Because they don't want texture. But with something like this, I think texture's good. And if you get it smooth, then it's fine. But if you get texture, that's good too. Okay, so what I'm talking about is some of that alcohol ink texturing in here. Let me see. Let me try to like specifically get some of it. It's like where you add like a puddle of that ink and it kind of leaves a little bit of that alcohol ink ring. I don't know if that's the word, but something like this. I like it in my rocks and whatnot, okay? So I'm just kind of going around. You can do it choppy or whatever. You can go like this if you want to, okay? All right, let's see. Brownish gray, that served its purpose well. Let me try something here too. I'm going to go with some of this green like this, okay? And I'm thinking about maybe right here in this foreground, okay? You wouldn't see these colors at nighttime, but who cares, you know? If it looks good on your scene, then why not do it? Okay, so a little bit of warmth like this. Here goes, you know, that little bit of a temperature change again. Yeah, can you see that right there? And it's just a little bit of warmth in here, okay? This isn't like a super bright green. It's kind of like a dull green, but I think that looks pretty good down in here. I'm going to blend it out now too, okay? I don't want it just like that, but see that right down there? It's a little bit too extreme, but like I said, I'm going to go in. Here's this dull green, okay? And I'll go back in, and I'll try to add a little bit of texture by puddling some of that green application. And when I do this over the green that I just applied, it's putting that green back into solution, so. And we're working on the glossy cardstock, so it's moving around for me just fine. Okay. All right, so see that right there? And kind of give a little bit of a different tinge. It's kind of like glowing in there now. I mean, you can do that in the background too. I don't want to, you know, make it too similar over everything. So I think I'll just leave that little bit of foreground a little bit warmer like that. All right, so this is the part where let's see. So I'm trying to think of, should I do, okay, so here's what I have left to do. I have paint pens that I can utilize for a lot of texture, okay? Lighting, etc. Hello, Maureen. Good to see you. C.M. Hawkins, were you on Prodigy before? I have these to go, okay, and the fine points as well. Oh, I have, look at these. I have all these glitter pens too, or the iridescent types of ones. Pearl, I think they call it. And glitter acrylic pens that I want to use throughout. We have our Wink of Stella. White pigment ink, which is the big one. And bleed proof white. So, okay, this one's going to get really textured. So I think I don't want to have to draw over this, or white pigment ink, so that one will be, these two will come later, okay, last maybe. So let's go with these right here first, okay? All right. Oh, wait a minute, I have the light beams too. Don't worry about, you know, I'm thinking about this. I do it both ways. A lot of times I'll add something and it's like, oh, wait, I should have done this before. But you can still, you don't have to stay within a certain process with certain types of media. Like, I can interchange all of these, but just, I'm trying to think of the ones that'll just be the easiest, you know. But they're all a possibility in terms of steps, you know, which you have. Now, you want to lay down your dye-based inks and all that type of thing first. You don't want to do, you know, paint pens, bleed proof white, and try to go over with color or something like that with, you know, these, okay. But from here, these are all almost kind of three-dimensional media in a way, you know, because these types of things kind of all stay on the surface. They're not getting absorbed into the paper, right? So, dye-based inks work by soaking into the paper, so you want to do that first. Okay, so let's go with, let's start off with some of these. Now, this is going to look really kind of weird in here, but I want to make this different from different scenes of this composition that I've done in the past, and the thing that I didn't have in the past, I think when I did those ones were these big fat pens like this. So it's going for a little bit of a pointillism type of look, and it's going to look out of place. If you haven't seen me do these before, it looks out of place until I blend it in with the other media, you know, bleed proof white and the white pigment ink, okay? I'm saying that so people, you know, when I'm starting to do this, you won't think, oh my God, you know, well, you can think that, but it'll come together a little bit later. You know, people look at, you know, something that you're doing in kind of shock and think, oh my God, he just ruined it, you know. When you're doing it live, you can really feel that in the crowd. You can feel the energy in the air. So, okay, so adding some of this blue in that blue area like that, okay. We don't want people frightened, you know, or appalled. Maybe fright is the word. All right, so see that right in here? It's kind of a dark blue, and I'm adding, well, it's not a real dark blue. It's kind of like a medium tone blue, but I'm adding it in the areas where it just kind of shows up a little bit, or in a similar value area. Okay, I'm not adding it in the lighter area where it's going to stand out as dark, and I'm not adding it into a really dark area where it's going to really stand out as too much light. Okay, so it's, I wouldn't call it subtle. You know, it is a 3mm paint pen after all. Here's the difference between the 3mm and the 0.7, okay? All right, so let's see. Let's add this on some of my rocks in here. That really stands out on those rocks. I see it. Okay. This is where a scene can almost look like, you know, when you use pigment inks and opaque things over the top of darker things, light over dark, that's when you can really make things look a lot more three-dimensional and illuminated that way. That of course is when we're starting off with, you know, a white piece of paper. If you put light over dark on like a foil or something like that, or if we're working in a like a dark paper, then of course that's really going to look illuminated too. And that's another fun technique, is to do scenes on dark cardstock, but you use lighter tones and media to define your light. So someone was asking, you know, what paper is the best. I didn't even mention working on kind of like medium to darker tones like foils or something like that, and applying instead of positive applications. You're almost kind of, it's not, you're not removing things, but it almost looks like you're removing dark to reveal light in those cases. All right, so anyway, people are wondering, what the heck is he talking about? Okay, so see some of these areas in here, you know, that are revealing that light like that. Let's see. I think that's it with this one. Those ones are really standing out like that. I'll have to blend them out a little bit. Okay, let's go with a lighter tone. Or are we going with the darker tone too? Maybe I'll use a little bit of the darker tone. I hardly ever do that. I'm with you there on the gel pens. I didn't have too much of a problem, but if I was using the gel pen over certain types of applications, Joy, because they're a roller ball construction, they're not as easy to use, I think, as the paint pen kind of method or method of delivery onto the surface right here. Hello, Christine. Thanks for joining in for as long as you do. Let's see. Okay. Oh, good night, Phyllis. All right, so adding this in, I'm adding this in now in some of these darker areas, okay, and I'll add this dark blue in these darker areas so I can see I get a little bit of a highlight of that on those darker objects, okay? So this is a really dark blue, but if I use it on something that's darker than the blue, you know, it's light, right, by contrast. As I put my hand down on this, some of these areas in here have that, like a pretty good coating of alcohol ink at this time, so it's got that sticky kind of, you know, feeling to it, you know, it's sticking to my hand. It's the alcohol ink on there. This blue looks pretty interesting. I like this blue. I usually don't go so extreme with my usage of these paint pens, but it's kind of making those areas glow in there. Okay, it's fairly extreme, but like I said, I'm going to mellow out some of these applications in these areas with that pigmenting. It's going to be like diffused into there, so it's going to mellow that area out. Okay, let's see. What kind of paper are you cutting, Don? You're cutting a lot, huh? I've never done so much paper cutting in my life, even preparing in my days of preparing for like workshops, you know, and cutting, you know, 4 by, you know, 4¼ by 5½ quarter-page cards or something like that for classes. I mean, back when I used to do it, I used to just take a ream of, you know, paper to Kinko's at the time, and just use their paper trimmer, have them trim down, you know, make, what is it, 1, 2, 3 cuts through the entire ream. But when I was in volunteering for the middle school art program, they didn't teach art in middle school, but they have this program called Art Core, and I volunteered for that, and I volunteered for the supplies coordinator or whatever it was called, supplies something, and in this middle school there's 1,500 kids, and we had those, I think it was called roto trim paper trimmers, and so I read that, you know, Dawn's like giving her arm a break, you know. You know, some of those times, and it, you know, and those, you don't want to cut too many pieces all at the same time, so you know, we're doing like at most like 2 slices at a time, 2 sheets, and preparing some of those lessons, you know, for, let me see, there's 3 grades, so you get 500 kids, you know, with all that paper and stuff like that. It was pretty insane. And those roto trimmers would they'd wear out, and trying to find those pieces from that, it's a company from the UK, so it wasn't easy to find like parts for these things domestically here in the US. Yeah, it was insane. A lot of people offered it, but they didn't carry it. I don't know if you have run into that, like for parts for something. It's like they only order it when they receive an order for it, but you know, with that program where we only had 2 roto trimmers, you know, for an entire thing, it's like I had to start writing people and saying, Now, do you have this in stock, or, you know, because I said I can't wait around for it. And it was like none of them did. Okay, so adding this in, see that splashing area down there? We're going to be doing this with the bleed-proof white splatter painting too, but I just want to go a little bit more extreme with this too. And again, there's going to be some diffusion. I just want some extra texture in this and kind of, I don't know, it's a little bit more of a playful kind of application when you're using like dots like this size too. And we're going to have some glittery types of applications as well. So hopefully that will look interesting too. So see, putting this on some of the parts of the tree, facing that light. So it's capturing some of that light or reflecting some of that light back. You have your light source and your reflected light in there, okay? Oh yeah, and light beams, my gosh. We're going all out on this piece right here. Like I said, I've done this before, so I wanted it to, I want there to be something different with this one. Okay, all right. "15 cards from 6 6x6 sheets of patterned paper." Ah. Oh, yeah. Always watch that you do everything nice and ergonomic, and like, yeah, like you said, you take a break. Stretch out your hands too. You know, I mean, I haven't been doing it, but when I'm working on something like this, I always try to work really ergonomically. I don't really feel anything like when I'm done with a scene like this, but if you're, look at my fingertips here. You know, it's always a good idea to stretch out your fingers and everything like that before, during, and after your process too. And also stretch out your wrists too, like this, okay? Like that, so you don't get this buildup of kind of tension in there. And like I said, you know, when I'm working on my pieces, you might notice I'm kind of always spinning this around like this to get at those areas from an angle that's the most conducive for the most comfortable application of whatever I'm doing, okay? So, you know, spin this around like this, as opposed to kind of working out here where my, you know, my arm and shoulders extended too much, okay? So keep that in mind. All right, so let's go with some light beams from this, okay? I want to have some light beams kind of running across in this, like this, and maybe coming down in here, like so. All right, so this is a pretty long sheet, so let me see. I think this is the same sheets that I used on my last piece. So let's go like this. All right, here's what's, don't let this complicate things for you, but it's kind of a thing that's also really fun here. Okay, so if this is our light source, I can have beams like going in back of all these trees, okay? But you can also have it going in front of some and in back of others. So keep that in mind when you lay your sheets down like this and where you want it to go. Now this tree looks like it's the farthest back because it's the lightest, okay? So I think what's going to be fun is if I have like a beam that's going in back of these trees, but in front of this one. But maybe I'll do another beam that's in front of this one, but in back of this one, like that. So you can kind of play around with depth like that, okay? Now these are fairly dynamic too, so I'm going to try to be fairly subtle with my application. Now you have to kind of remember, okay, let's see, when you put this down like this, you have to kind of look to see which trees you're going to, you know, go in back of and in front of other ones, okay? And, okay, this is on glossy cardstock, so if you put some ink down and you think, oh, I don't like it, you can wipe it off, you know, before it dries, okay? And sometimes even when it dries, you can wipe it off, okay? So don't worry about that either. Okay. Oh, yeah, sorry, Paul. Yeah, glossy cardstock. Thank you, Kay. Yeah. You know, if I miss something like that, just if it, you know, people know the answer, post. Okay, so going across here like so. Glossy cardstocks retain some of the most, the most amount of probably media on the surface as any media that you'll probably use, okay? But, for a while there, I mean, I didn't use glossy cardstock for a long time. I was using mostly my semi-gloss, which is almost like a matte, okay? In fact, it looks matte in the finish if you were just to hold it up. It just barely has a satiny type of look to it. But I thought, I'm losing, I'm getting out of practice with my glossy, so. Okay, so, and this in here like that. Okay, so see that beam kind of coming across in here? Like that? So it's in front of this one, like that, and in back of this one, in front of this other one, right here. I don't know, maybe I should make it in back of it, so I'll wipe that off. Like that. So now it's in back of it, right? Here, let me take a paper towel and kind of do that one right here. Okay, so now it's in back of that one just because I wiped up. Okay, so it's just a really light beam like that. I mean, I can make it more prominent if I want to. Okay. Sometimes you just lay your beams in there and then take a good look at the overall, and then say, okay, do you want the beams to be brighter, or less prominent, more distinct, whatever you want, okay? So it's not like you have to get that beam exactly so in one go. All you need to do is just go like this again, right? And you can add more, whatever. And one of the things I've mentioned in the past is this white pigment ink, when you apply it on here, it dries darker than what it looks like when it's been freshly applied. So if it looks too prominent, just let it set up a little bit, and then it might darken, to your liking much better. Okay. All right, so let's put this beam here. How about I'll have it coming in back of this trunk right here, but in front of everything else here, okay? So you can get a little bit more three-dimensional looking with this type of usage of your light beams, okay? Okay, so where's that tree? Here we go. And I'm kind of doing it too, where I'm kind of going a little bit heavier kind of on the top area than on the bottom. So, I'm seeing if I can get kind of a more varied beam, okay? Just where it's not like solid all the way across and uniform, which you can do too, but I think the more I do these types of beams like this, I tend to like it a little bit more irregular, okay? You can even put some pigment here, let it go in here, and put some pigment in here, so it's like light, darker, light, where the beam's getting broken up. And I think that looks really good too. Okay, so something like this. Here like that. See, it's really subtle like that. I mean, you can make it, like I said, you can make it more prominent if you want to. Okay, so let's see. And I'm aiming for that center of that as my vanishing point. So every time I put these two like this, I'm kind of aiming for, roughly that center. I'm not, I don't need a, exact, spot to emanate from, but for the most part. Good night, Teresa. Thanks for joining in. Sweet dreams, dreams of scenic dreams to you. I need a longer thing. That is these last two scenes have had some really long beams in here. Okay, so let's go here. Let's do another one behind this tree, and let's go across here, okay? Let's keep it kind of narrow. Just for variation again, okay? You have to kind of peek up like that to find out where your last beam was. A little bit. Okay, let's go like this. And so this one right here, it's going to be fairly narrow, just for variation. I'll do that thing where I kind of break it up too. I'll kind of put some over here. I'll leave this area, you know, with nothing, and then I'll come in here like this. And I'll just kind of break it up a little bit here, so it's not just all white ink right here, okay? You can do kind of a blotchy, uneven application, okay? For a lot of people, that's harder to do than just completely uniform, you know? They want everything like really perfect, okay? So see that right there where I've broken it up? You can't really see it here. I mean, it's lighter in here anyways, but see, and then see that light, this beam got broken up right here too. Let's break it up a little bit more just to emphasize this, okay? So let's go in here and break it up a little bit like so, like this, okay? See how that looks really good like that, to just kind of break it up? See, there's like a little white up here, you know what I mean? So you don't have to do like completely uniform, perfect applications of media in here. I didn't do that with the alcohol ink, so I got a little bit blotchy, you know, with that to get that texturing in there. So just keep that in mind, you know. And I mean, you could go for, you know, just completely uniform and absolutely smooth applications of everything, but you know, you don't have to. And I don't know. I think that just makes for an easier process. It's less. It's not tedious. You take the tedium out of it. Okay. Okay. So let's see. Let's go like this right here. Kind of breaking it up right in here, okay? That's a really dark area, and then I'm applying it over the top of, and I'm not doing it absolutely uniform, okay? So, like this right here. Okay, so let's see. I don't want to make a vertical beam. I think it looked kind of awkward here, so. Oops. PJB. Is that Pam? Dawn, it's 10:17 for you. Go rest that arm. Go use one of those like massager things on your arm there. Okay. So we have that. Let's see. Let's put another one. Do we want one on this side of this tree? Maybe. I don't know if there's room. Here, let me see. God, I almost can't even see this tree in here. Let me put a little, yeah, that's really too light here. Let's see. Wipe it off there. Okay, so you get a little bit of a beam kind of in back of there. Actually, it's too much of a beam. See how light that is right there? And let me blot that off a little bit. I don't want to have anything like super, super light in a really dark area like that. So see how that's fairly subtle like that, that beam in there. It needs two though, doesn't it? Okay, let's see. Okay, I just lost my light beam applicator. Okay, here we go. If you haven't done this before, you got to try this out. These light beams. These are so fun to do. I mean, the scene kind of, I've mentioned this before, but the scene almost becomes about those beams in a way. They make a really strong kind of subject matter, or maybe not subject matter, but kind of focal point in these pieces, okay? Now, they're standing out right now because I haven't used any white pigment ink in here yet to diffuse areas and to add illumination and all that. That's coming, okay? But I wanted to do that right now just to, I don't know, kind of get my bearings on how this is looking right now. Let's do one more. Let's have one going up in this area like this. Okay. One of the things I'm doing too from a technique standpoint or application standpoint, some of these areas I'm going like this and it's getting a little blotchy, so I'm kind of dragging a little bit like this as opposed to tapping too, okay? So it's a little bit of both. So I'm tapping like that, but then if I get a little bit of a blob or something like that from the application or a little bit of texture on this, then just kind of move it around a little bit like that. Okay, all right, so that is about right there. So I think that kind of gave a pretty dynamic look to those trees, right? I mean, I think the trees had depth in there before, but this is just like a huge amount of extra depth in there just from those, you know, adding one thin application of media in a very, you know, granted it's in very select areas, you know, with the, you know, the masking like that, but it's just fun stuff. Okay, so let's go in and add in, let's go to the Dr. Martens, I think now. Let's see. Joy, you got to try them out sometime. I think, you know, I haven't even done this before, but on just regular, well, whatever you call it, regular card, or this is a regular card too. Well, this is a big one, but you know where those beams would really come into play? I haven't seen anyone do it. I mentioned this before, but if you're stamping, if you have like a background of color or something like that, or, you know, you have a little bit of a vignette, and then you stamp like a word stamp in there, like if you have these beams coming out from word stamps, like happy birthday or whatever, Merry Christmas, I mean, these beams would be perfect for that type of, you know, thing. I mean, they have templates, you know, for that, but I think you can go more, you can do a lot of things more, a little bit more you know, with variation and specifics with, you know, just 2 pieces of paper, you know, like that, you know, then you can add, and you can vary it too, which is the good thing about doing it that way. So you don't need a lot of them too, you know, you have it irregular, you don't have to be real uniform around the entire thing or something like that. Okay, so here, I'm going to do something too. Let me do this before I get into the Dr. Martens. I think I'm going to add in a few more highlights with my 0.7 millimeter pen, okay? All right, so one of the things that I did on that mountain scene, the large one, was I added in some highlights in the path of the light, okay, beam. So on those trees, maybe that stands out a little bit too much, but on the path of the these beams here, I just kind of made the highlights on those objects a little bit more, I don't know, whatever, deliberate, where the beam might meet the tree, even though these beams are supposed to be like in front of that. I think it looks pretty cool like that, to have those little bit of a, you know, areas like these rocks right here, a little bit more illuminated in the path of that light like this, okay? on this tree right here with this beam coming across like that. Okay. Maybe a few more highlights on the objects that are much closer to the light source. Okay, so see this one right here, this beam right here coming down this way. So it's like those light beams are kind of influencing the things that they're running into now by, you know, giving off a little bit more of a reflection from it. All right. Okay, so let's go in with the Dr. Martin's bleed proof white. I'm deciding if I wanted to use this as like a, I don't know, like snow in here too, if I just wanted at the base of the waterfalls. Sometimes kind of flicking it around everywhere, it kind of adds a really nice texture to things too. The paper keeps slipping on Linda, and it gets all wonky. Well, the paper, the masking paper, or your scene, Linda? Okay, Dr. Martin's Bleed Proof White. If you don't know what this is, it's a little bottle of very opaque white watercolor paint. Okay, this is just your standard toothbrush, a very cheap one that doesn't have all those little gum stimulators on it and stuff like that, which I think kind of, you know, interferes with this type of little splatter painting touch that, you know, I'm going for with this. So one of those real cheap toothbrushes works really good. Okay, and I'm only putting a little bit right in that tip right there, okay? And then not only do I do that, but I kind of wring out, you know, a lot of the excess paint. So it's just like a, you know, a little bit of a loading up of a very small area, but in a very dry, well, I wouldn't call it dry, but, you know, just not dripping wet. Okay, let me try to keep all this within view. Now this, I'm going for something very specific, so I'm going for it at the base of these waterfalls like this. So I'm going like an inch away, but normally if I'm doing stars or something like that, it's like 8 inches away or something like that, where I'm holding this up way up here, okay? But we're going for something fairly specific, so I'm going right down here, and I'm just releasing a couple little bristles right in here. You never see me go zip like that, okay? I'm just kind of going like this. So it's like this, okay? And it's also, I do it like that because I never know which direction this is splattering at, okay? Sometimes I do this and it's like splattering up there. Or sometimes I go like this and I think I'm flicking it this way and it's going like in reverse. So just kind of get the feel of which way it's going on that day. And so you get that nice variation happening down there like that. Okay? All right, let's move it along. Here, let me go like this. I'm flipping this upside down just so you can see it a little bit easier. Let me see, is my hand out of the way? Okay. All right, my brush is getting a little bit dry. I might have to, well, no, okay. I was gonna say, I think I need to reload it, maybe not. It's a little bit more, I don't know, it's like magical looking or something like that, having that kind of, that explosion of, I don't know, water movement, the churning of that water at the base of the waterfalls. And also, I mean, it's a little bit different than the kind of real kind of methodical application of those dots up there. If you don't have something like this, I mean, you can add in dots, and that's what I typically used to do until I remembered, oh, I have that, the Dr. Martens bleed proof, like that. I splashed it up there. But I remembered I'd had this, and I used it in some scene at some point in time. It's like, oh, okay, that really added, I think, a lot to the scene from a textural standpoint. Also, it's kind of lighting in many ways, like that. But it's kind of moving now, doesn't it? Don't you think those waterfalls are kind of churning? Doesn't it give that, the waterfall movement? I think I need to go back in and add a little bit more tone into these waterfalls too. Let's go with a little bit more of that. Let's go with a little bit of this blue. I'm kind of going like at the top of the little fall, and I'm leaving the bottom of it, the base of it, a little bit lighter, okay? All right, I think that is it for that area. I think I'm going to do some embossing on here too. I think some VersaFine Clair for some overhanging tree limbs in this, but embossed too would look really good. Okay, so let me see, before I get too far, before I forget to use these are fairly new right here, but I have these glitter and iridescent, or pearl, I think it's called. Some of these are glitter, I forgot what it's called, glitter something, okay? So let me add some of these little touches down in here. You're not going to be able to see this, I don't think. Maybe you'll be able to see it if I kind of hold it up to the light. But this one is a real reflective, kind of turquoise. This one looks turquoise. It doesn't look like it's turquoise right here, but when I lay it down, I think it looks a little bit turquoise. But these are metallic little dots, and let me see if it's. Well, you can look at that. Look how crazy that looks with all those paint pen dots in there. Let's see, it's like that. So I'm seeing if we can capture some of this lighting with these metallic ones. And I don't know if you could see it. I can see it here firsthand, but as I'm looking on my computer, what the camera's picking up, I don't think you're going to be able to see that. Okay, so I won't spend too much time with this, if you're not going to be able to see it. But okay, now this one's more of a, looks like a steel blue. This one's really good. This one's a little bit more reflective. Let's put some of this on some of these rocks as well. Let me see if you guys can see that a little bit here. Sorry, it's out of focus there a little bit. I see the 3mm paint pens a little bit more. I don't know, they're like down here, so. Going for shimmer. Where's that Wink of Stella? Okay, now the Wink of Stella might be even more subtle here. Are we supposed to shake up Wink of Stella? I don't even know. I guess so, because it's like glittery, right? Hello, Sandy. Thanks for joining in, checking out little waterfall scene. I'm trying to make at a lot of little. These are acrylic paint pens, Joy. They come in. I got that set fairly recently. It's really nice. It's like this. But tons of, I forgot what they called it. There's 3 types. There's neon, oh yeah, neon glitter, pearl, and I forgot what the other one was called. all these different terminologies for these companies. Okay, let me try to add in some wink of Stella, okay? Adding it down here in the water. Let me see. Okay, I can kind of see it. You'll never be able to see it, though. It's really subtle. That scene that someone sent me that used all that shimmery types of things, I said, all right, what did you use on there? I asked if they used a Wink of Stella pen. But I think it was, oh, they used gel pens, you know, for their highlight. I should show you guys that piece. Okay, so here's some Wink of Stella in there. Which is, of course, is completely invisible on camera. I shouldn't go for these, like, uber kind of subtle types of things in these live broadcasts if you can't see it. Okay, so let's go for some the Brilliance ink. Okay, now I just remembered I wanted to use some of that, some of the embossing on here too. We might as well. All right, so let's go with the. There's a lot of the parts to this scene that are unresolved even at this point in time, and in terms of my process here, so just keep that in mind. That's why I'm kind of like thinking here at the time. It's like, oh yeah, let's use, you know, let's do some embossing on here. But what I was thinking about was, you know, should I add this on first, or should we do the embossing things and then add this on? So that's those little types of things. I mean, we can do both. I can add some of this down here, put an embossed image over the top of it, and then put some of us, you know, it could be sandwiched in between a layer of this pigment ink. Okay, cotton ball, dabbing into my white pigment ink. It's all frayed like this, as you can see, okay, with a new cotton ball like that. All right, so you just kind of flatten it out like this. And it also kind of pushes some of it back into the surface, okay? So you're using kind of a flatter and more evenly applied application of that pigment ink in there, as opposed to just going in here and starting to apply that with like a frayed, unevenly applied medium. And look at my hands. Okay, so this is the thing that, for me, really brings a lot of things together at this point in time. It remedies a lot of things, etc. Okay, so I'm going to start applying this around my moon first. I usually start applying it to the lightest of objects within the scene, okay? And as I apply white into that light, you can't really see it, so I start moving it into that surrounding area. So this is really effective, as I always say, where light meets dark, or just darker. It doesn't have to be real dark. It's just something where it's going to show up on, okay? So see this tree, or this overhanging branch right there, it's kind of becoming a little bit more illuminated like that, and same thing with the side of that tree. It's blending in my applications of, you know, big and bold 3mm acrylic paint pen dots, you know, so they're not quite so crazy looking, but I get the texture from them, but just not the, you know, the super, you know, bold application of it. Okay, now see this right in here? This is like this moon, and it's like this light is almost like spilling into this area, okay? That's what I'm kind of going for right here. So what it is, it represents this mist that's kind of in the air, okay? And it's being illuminated because that moisture in the air can be reflective, or reflecting that light that's in there. So see how much better that looks right in here? I'm trying to sell you on the idea of this because this is what I do for, you know, like so many of my pieces. I think that area in there looks really good like that. Okay, and like I said, you know, I didn't have to be very, you know, mindful of my applications of texture and color in that area because it's covered up now with that light. Plus, it looks just better that way too. Okay, so this area right in here at the base of the waterfalls, where we have this churning water, we have our crisp applications of little splashes in there with the both the gel pens, you know, the glitter pens, and the bleed proof white. Okay, but now I'll just come in here and where light meets dark, go like this. This is kind of dry on here too. Okay, I am dabbing into my pad like this. Okay, but just keep in mind this pad is, it's kind of a medium dryness, but I'm also I start tapping in my light areas, so even if I am getting a blob in here, you know, you can't really see it. So I'm just going like this, and I'm using a light touch moving out like that, okay? But you don't have to, you know, use a super light touch if you have, you know, a drier application on here. The brand of glitter pearl pens was, oh my gosh, it was, okay, this one's Lan Ren Wang. I always have a really tough time remembering that name. And then their parent company is ZSCM. Z as in zebra, C S. No wait, Z as in zebra, S C M as in Mary. I wish they would. Their company should be called something like Fun Pens or something like that. Not that, you know. No one remembers that in terms of brand recognition. Okay, so see this down here? See how this is kind of adding in that? You can tell the difference between here and here. Maybe you do one like this and leave the other as this. You know, I don't know. You could. PJB Stamper's back. Did you bring us some snacks with you when you came back? We had an order for pretzel bites and popcorn. Someone ordered nachos, I think. All right, so let's see this little path of that kind of illumination going through there. Doesn't it look kind of cool, you know what I mean? This right here does a lot to remedy some, you know, a lot of things that are going on. Plus, it just looks better, you know? It's not just to kind of, you know, remedy kind of mistakes or anything like that or harsh kind of applications, but it just, I don't know, it's like a little pathway of light. Plus, okay, so what we've done down here, too, is we've suddenly taken some areas like this and we've added a lot of softness to those areas. It's like a textural change like that, right? Doesn't it look like a softer path of light like that? And plus, I mean, now these beams are kind of, you know, they're merging, you know, with the surrounding kind of area a little bit more because we're using it in different areas now. Okay, so let's say this area down in here, it's a little bit light, like it's, you know, white in there, right? So where white meets dark or darker, you just add that. So you build out from those light areas into those surrounding areas like that, okay? Now see that one part of my tree that didn't stamp out in the background, you have the beams going across it, so it really doesn't, you know, make it, it's not too big of a deal. That's a little bit too much right there, I think. So I'll just kind of go like this with the dry part of my cotton ball and just remove some of it so you have just that little application of it like that, okay? All right, so let's come down in here. Oh, the Cadbury mini eggs. I saw where you mentioned those earlier. I don't think God, I haven't had a Cadbury egg in a long time. All right, let's see. When I was a kid, you know, they used to have those, well, they still do, those Easter baskets with a chocolate bunny inside of them. And I never used to want to break that, you know, rabbit, but that would kind of stress my mom out because she thought, okay, we're wasting that, you know, if you're not going to eat that rabbit, you know, we're wasting that, you know, that chocolate in there. So, I mean, one time she purposely broke the rabbit so that it was like, okay, you know, might as well eat it now. I mean, I wasn't terribly upset or anything like that, but I remember that. Didn't want to break that rabbit. That, you know, that rabbit's like sculpture, right? All right, so adding in this diffusion like so. Okay. All right. Like that. Even this one over here. I think I'm going to leave that one as is. So it's like a crisp waterfall or something like that. All right, let's bring some of this into these areas around here. It looks a little bit more dreamy to me, you know, having this kind of foggy mist, you know, running across these different objects like this too. I always mention this in, you know, my videos, but anytime you see a production of some sort of characters out in a forest or anything like that, they almost always have the fog machines blasting in the background. So, you know, there's this kind of movement and illuminated mist and texture in that background. It could be anything, you know. It doesn't have to be like a fantasy storyline or something like that, you know, like Lord of the Rings or whatever at nighttime, you know. It could be just about anything, you know. It could be, you know, someone going out and doing investigative work or, you know, on the field or something like that. But they'll often have that mist rolling in the background. It's for that textural kind of difference, and it's kind of creating a little bit of movement, you know, within the, you know, the frame. All right, these clouds in the background that I added in at the beginning of this broadcast, I'll go and kind of soften those up a little bit. I'm starting to wonder if I'm applying anything like that, or if my pad is like super dry. I think it is. I think it's applying. Yeah, it is. It's just you can't really see anything in that real light area back there. Okay. I mean, here's this glare in here. Let me show you. Oops. Here it is, like here. Okay. I think we can go a little bit more out in down here. Let's make it look like really kind of misty and magical in here. What's happening here is, as I've gone over here and I've started working over here and here and here, this area over here dried and it's darkening. Okay, it's becoming a little bit more transparent. Gosh, I wish I didn't have all this glare on here, but so you just go back in and add another layer on top of that dried layer. And where it starts to build up like that, you'll get a little bit more opacity. Not that we want opacity, but you know, you want it a little bit more kind of in that direction in some areas. Okay, so it's right here where I'm going a little bit lighter. It's like that, you know, that mist is kind of pouring through that opening like that. I think that area right in here, that's my favorite area right in here. Okay. Going about like so. Okay, good night. Got to go. Thanks for joining in. Yes, good point. Hello. If anyone else has joined in recently, thanks for joining in. Okay. And I think that's the white pigment ink. I really like doing this part of it right here and watching all this kind of, so I tend to go, I probably go a little bit overboard with it. I don't know. Can you ever go overboard with too much pigment ink? Maybe, but it doesn't seem like that. This is real similar to the that piece that I have as my kind of default live stream scene. I think in that one it's more daytime, so the trunks are like brown in there. But that one was an 8.5 by 11 as well. All right, so let's see here. Now this is the part that I always kind of forget about. Sometimes this white pigment ink dries fairly quickly, okay? But if I don't heat set it, my pigment, clear pigment ink powder sticks to it. So I should heat set this before I go in here with the foreground imagery and emboss that. Okay, so let's do that. It'll just take a second. The pigment ink that I was using is the Brilliance ink, so it dries really quickly. All right. Hello, Dan. Thanks for joining in. All right, so let's see. I get to use my VersaFine Clair. Who doesn't love their VersaFine Clair? It's so dark and rich. All right, so here's the thing. I'm trying to decide on which foreground do I want to add in here. I could just go with the same oak branch that I've used in there, but let's see. I might go with the leaves instead, just for a little bit of a textural difference, slight textural difference. Let's just do that one. So you're saying there's no such thing as too much white pigment ink. I guess there could be if you white out the entire thing, but within reason. Okay, so VersaFine Clair, black, and ultrafine clear embossing pattern is what I'm going to be using in here. Okay, so everyone have a VersaFine Clair or just VersaFine black pad? If you don't, I mean, I went for a long time without. Well, I had my other VersaFine. I had this one right here, which I think is great, but that Clair seems to be a little bit better to me. Someone said it's like a refined version of that VersaFine. Okay, so see, this is what this is looking like here in the corner like that. So that's actually here. That's actually going to be raised. So see, and it's hard to tell like that because it looks just all black, but you can tell it's there. And then that will be raised right there. Okay, those impressions right there. So we're going 3-dimensional here. slightly with the embossing. Okay, let's put some of this right over the front of that moon too, like that. Doesn't it look better like that? It covers up a little of that moon. Now I don't want to cover up like 90% of it or something like that, but it just makes it look that much lighter, that much kind of softer by having something dark and crisp next to it there. The interesting thing about this Clair to me too is that you can stamp it over a fairly dark area, Marvy black, and that Marvy black doesn't look black at all anymore. You know, it looks like, I don't know, like a 90% gray or something. It just looks so much lighter. And Marvy black is pretty black too. It's pretty dark. But next to the Clair, just like a, you know, I don't know, that shocked me when I realized that at some point in time, which was fairly recently. Okay, so I got that overhanging coverage in there like so. So it kind of frames things off a little bit more too. All right, no, but I don't think that VersaFine Clair is going to dry on here, so, you know, we really need to emboss it. The one thing about the embossing, though, is that it doesn't look as dark after I put that Clair emboss, and I have a feeling that it's merging with the Clair embossing powder. And I've tried the black embossing powder on here, the detailed black embossing on black, which is darker, but I don't like how it's not as, it doesn't have the same feeling to me, at least with the powders that I'm using. Maybe there's another one that's different, but I like the feeling of the clear, how it's raised and real smooth, more than the black powder on black ink. I don't know why. Maybe, yeah, maybe you guys can tell me. Maybe it's just the powder, or, you know, the brown that I'm using, or what. But the black one, it felt kind of gritty to me. I don't know. Does anyone have that, you know, same experience or have a remedy for that? Okay, so anyways, I have this coming in from the surrounding area. I'll show you where this is right here. So going around that way. And that one is right down here. So we get a little bit of that three-dimensional aspect of it. I thought about adding some kind of little character down there, but I kind of decided against it when I was adding in all those little dots. But I would have added something like a little focal point down there, but I don't think I'm going to. If I did, I would probably do it in black and emboss it too. I'm not sure. Scenic Dreams. Is that the okay, so we got that call out for titles on this one. I think we've pretty much gotten to the point of this where we can, if it's going to evoke any title considerations, I think we're there at this point in time. So Scenic Dreams sounds pretty good. You might want to add in like an adjective to on this one to that Scenic Dreams, like, I don't know, nocturne, or I don't know, whatever, nocturne blue Scenic Dreams or something. Scenic Dreams, I do like that one though. I guess, yeah, the dreams though, the dreams would be, you know, night though, huh? All right, so there, that. The Clair embossing powder on there. Did I miss anything? Oh, let me see. Let me get a couple of these worst parts off. I don't care if some of this little powder gets in some areas. Just because it's clear. Not really a big deal, but I don't want like a big blob of it in some areas. Okay, let's go like this. We're coming up on Halloween, like we were talking about before. We can have another scene called Scenic Terror, Scenic Nightmares. My Halloween scene seemed to resonate with certain people. It's like certain people are not into Halloween, certain people are indifferent, but the people that are really into Halloween, man, they love those Halloween cards, where it's like doing a scene with like a headless horseman or something. Okay, let's see how this one goes. Let's zoom in a little bit. Three-dimensional. And a warped card. Now I have to flatten all this out, but there we have our three-dimensional border like that. Let me see. Someone just mentioned something. Let me see. Where does it? Oh, Joy, you're versifying black never dries. What are you doing? What are you stamping it on, Joy? It's an oil-based pigment ink, so you have to, you need to be stamping it on like a matte cardstock in order for it to dry via absorption and a little evaporation, but a lot of it's by absorption of that oil on there. So on less than porous surfaces like glossy cardstock or something like that, you typically wouldn't use that if you just wanted to use it as is and to let it air dry. For something like that, if you wanted to use a pigment ink on there, on surfaces that were non-porous, I don't know where my black went, but it would be the Brilliance black pigment ink, if you're talking about black. All right, so anyways, there's that embossing. Okay, now what I'm going to do too is, because I'm going to get those leaves going across that with a little bit of the white pigment ink, okay? Yeah, it's not going to dry on there. If it's on a non-porous surface, though. It has to be on a porous surface. You can heat set like on photo paper too, with a Brilliance ink. I mean, not Brilliance, but an oil-based pigment ink, and it's just not going to dry. I've tried that as well, and it just, I don't know. It didn't happen for me. I don't know. Does anyone have any tips for Joy? That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking if you're not embossing, you got to use an absorbent surface. It doesn't have to be cardstock, or matte cardstock. It could be, other types of papers and whatnot. But see this where I'm putting this over the top of some of that branch. So again, this, this white ink is kind of, or your lighting is influencing even, your three-dimensional objects in here like that. So this is what I like about this too. This kind of, you can see where this kind of shows up over here. When it's capturing the light like that, like in this area right here. But I mean, this is what this scene looks like though. So it's only kind of, if you it catches that glare. You get that three-dimensional aspect. Plus, people like touching those type of three-dimensional areas that are popping out like that, though. But it looks a little bit more... the space, I think, looks a little bit deeper spatially, you know, from having these embossed things on there. I didn't used to emboss, though, but I think it looks pretty cool with it embossed like that. Yeah, well, that's what I was mentioning, Joy. The clear embossing looks nice and shiny and flat to me, and the black that I was using was kind of gritty and non-reflective. I like that look to it as opposed to the texture of the black on black. But again, I don't know. I don't know if it was, you know, just that particular brand of black that I was using, but it just didn't have the tactile kind of finish that I liked from the clear. But I do like things, you know, if I'm doing these types of things like this, in the foreground, I do want them to be fairly dark, so I don't know. CM, you find a black embossing pattern difficult to work with. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's that residue on there that I got too. Anyone have an answer for that? You know what I mean? Is there another black that kind of heats and it has more of a smooth, you know, finish to it, like, you know, the clear? I mean, this clear is like, you know, I really like this. Sorry, it's all out of focus here, but I really like this finish on it. Look how smooth that is, and, you know, just nice to the touch. But the black, it had like texture to it, and mine was kind of gritty, you know. So I think that's what you're talking about with the resin. I don't know these things, you know. I just kind of started embossing like a matter of like months ago. So I don't know, you know, if there's different types, you know, of black. I know there is detailed embossing powder, but are there ones that are kind of smoother, you know, in terms of the finish, or what? I have no idea. So if there's a better black, then, you know, let me know, because I need to get it. All right, so going back in. Now, see, I'm readjusting with my white because it's become rather translucent in some areas, or transparent, you know, so I need to go back in and add some of this back in here. I like this flood of light coming through there like that. Smears and hard to dry. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Joy, you can't... Yeah, anything non-porous, so foils, vellum, glossy cardstock, glossy photo paper. Don't use the stays. It's an oil-based medium, so yeah, it's just not going to. It's not going to dry without, you know, some other type of, you know, application in there. You know, embossing, like for one, or something like that. When you used it on your glossy cardstock, if it's still wet, you can like emboss it at this point in time too. I don't know. Good night, Tammy. Thanks so much for joining in. Okay, there we go. Oh, did anyone have any other names for this piece? I already forgot, you know, the one that came up there. Ultra fine emboss. Well, I have that in ultra fine there, but is that, you know, the black one? Are the black embossing powders all kind of, you know, a little bit, you know, textured? All right, I think that will do it there. Yeah, let me mute some of these larger dots out a little bit too. Yeah, this one looks pretty good over here, kind of illuminating that area. All right. There we go. I think that is it. I'm trying to think if I forgot to use something on here that I wanted to. So the glitter pens, let me see. I can see the glitter pens. Like if I look at this from a different angle, those metallics stand out a little bit more. I wish I could show you that though, but it's just not, it doesn't really read. I have too much light reflecting off of everything in there. Look how crazy this looks from a close-up standpoint like that. Look how textural that is in there. And then you zoom out. You know, this is like viewing it at arm's distance like that. You know. Yeah. Scenic Dreams. Scenic Dreams in Nocturne Blue. I think that sounds pretty good. That's a pretty long title, but I think that'll do it. You guys like that one for a title on this piece? Now, who came up with that turquoise Tranquility last time? People like that name. A couple people mentioned that one. But let's see here. Let me see if I can get that glare out of there. Yeah, it's a little bit better. I need to bow this, you know, for my studio lighting in here. Lamps. All right, so there we go. I notice I need to keep myself that little picture-in-picture bubble out of there so you guys can see that a little bit better. There we go. Like that. All right, so anyway, this is a pretty textured piece in here. It gets a little bit loud, but you know, that, like I said, that white pigment ink and splatter painting and light beams and the embossed areas up here kind of take care of a lot of that. You get a little bit of that highlighting on these raised pieces up here too. So where you're going for something dark, the thing that I like about embossed elements in here is that they also have that little element of lighting where it captures that light on there, so I don't have to do that. You know, normally I'd put a few little white little dots on there or something like that would be look like it's reflecting some light. And you can do that on raised pieces, but you don't really have to because it just kind of inherently captures some of that light and reflects it back, you know, with that shiny embossing finish to it. So pretty fun there like that. Yeah. The embossing, though, like I said, that's added a little bit of a tweak of what I used to do. You know, I'm always going for something that looks, you know, three-dimensional. Maybe not always, but usually. And that embossing is just like fast track way to getting, you know, that element in there because it actually is three-dimensional and easy to do. So, yeah. This scene is really about those. I think the scene is about, I don't know. Do you guys think that the scene, kind of the dominant thing in this scene is those, the light beams coming through those trees? I tend to think that it is. I don't know, maybe the moon. I don't know, maybe that's the strongest thing, I'm not sure. But, yeah. Oh, PJB Stamper. You're a good namer. Ooh, Mystic Moonlight. That's good too. That's easier on the titling when I'm doing those videos, you know, that thing. Because it can't take anything too long like that. But like I said, maybe this can be the series name or something like that. I don't know, Mystic Moonlight. That sounds pretty good. Like I said, I like alliterations. I've always liked that. So, and it's really simple too. Yeah. I don't know what brand that is, Verna. I don't think it says anything. It just says Clear EP, Clear Embossing Powder. Okay, so this is my wife's right here. and she just filled this up, and she doesn't, like, I don't know when the last time she probably never embosses anymore, just like so many people. So I said, do you have that you have any embossing powders? And she says, yeah, you know. So she gave me that, and the black embossing powder like that. So I have no idea what the brands are of these, you know. I don't know. Are they created equal, you know? Are they coming out of the same types of places? I have no idea. But this is the one, you know, right here that was kind of real gritty. And I don't know. I just wasn't into the texture after I was done with that. So, yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, like I said... Oh! Let me grab some. I want to show you guys something, too. Okay, so we were talking about holographic embossing powders, and I did follow up with this one. So I got the Ranger. Here, let me take it out of this thing. You guys told me about this, so I got the Ranger holographic. That's not going to focus in here, but I don't know, take my word for it. There we go. Embossing powder, holographic. It's really more of a glitter, right? Powder. So I want to use some of that in something. I'm thinking of, I want to do it like a beach scene where some of the rocks have that holographic kind of shimmer to them. I want to do them in black, but I want the holographic powder over the top of some of the rocks in that water. So coming soon sometime. I don't know, I guess I could have used them in here, but I don't know. Like some of those rocks that are down here. I don't want to do it in that one. I think this piece is already like super loud, but what I was talking about with that shimmery type of surface is this one right here, but look at all that. And see, this is the thing that puzzled me. I asked them when they did this shimmery background in here, can you tell that paint in the background is like, it's got that iridescent look to it. But then when they just stamped this over the top of it, it gave this thing a kind of a brownish tinge. I thought they colored it, but they didn't. They just stamped this right over, and that black permeated that area. And I think this is the VersaFine Clair right here. And then they used the glitter gel pens on here for these like little highlights like this. I don't know if you can tell that those little highlights on there are shimmery. And then these are actual crystals on here, so... I don't know. I forgot what the name of the thing, that glitter, that iridescent paint type of thing was, but I think this is on, like watercolor paper too, or something like that, so, yeah. Anyway, yeah, Moon and Beams, Mystic Moonlight, I like Mystic Moonlight too. Moonlight Memories, that one's good too. Let's go with the Mystic Moonlight on this one, how's that? All right, I need to write this down. I forget these things like instantly. Okay. So, anyway, a little bit of tweak on this one with a little bit... The one thing, I wish that shimmery type of surface came out a little bit more. I don't know, I could tweak this a little bit with like silver or something like that, you know, like right around in here. But that's what I was going for. I didn't really get what I was going after on this one. Not like I don't go with, something like really definitive in mind, and I always tell people that. Like I was making this thing up as I went along, but things were a little bit less shimmery down here than I wanted it to be. I don't know, maybe I need to slather on some of that Wink of Stella in there or something like that. But I don't know. I'll figure it out. Maybe. I don't know, maybe some of that, that holographic needs to be down in here. I think that would look too crazy. It looked a little bit too busy. But I'm looking at something right here too. Let me put a little bit more of this down here. All right, there we go. I got a little bit too crazy with my my 3mm paint pens in here. I mean, it looks okay, but it just needs to be diffused a little bit like this. Okay, that looks better. And it's more illuminated down there to boot. And I put a little bit of that pigment ink over that branch, so this branch now has a little bit of illumination to it too. So, all right, so we have another piece complete from the stamp sketch video, another big one done here. I think it looks a little bit more refined than the ones I've done in the past. Doesn't mean that's any better or anything like that, but just a little bit more resolved in terms of certain things in here. I don't know. Yeah. All right. So anyway, thanks everyone for joining in. Hope you enjoyed the live stream, and we'll see you again. One of the future videos, I'm going to be doing some more stamp sketches using, is the person in here, you know, I'm going to take a listing of a lot of the stamps they have and do a bunch of stamp sketches around those ones. And I don't know, I can finish off some more of those smaller pieces too. So those smaller pieces will be a snap, you know, 2 by 2 inch, you know. How long can that really take, you know, or something like that. I don't know if I'll finish off the inchy or something like that, but yeah. Yeah, it's not a mica spray on that one, but it is, yeah, that pearlescent. I don't know what it is. I'll post this, the medium that's used on this, and I'll try to get some good close-ups of it too, so it shows that real shimmery type of surface to it. But oh, that mica spray, you know, that mica spray might be kind of good down in this area right here. Just like spray it only in the water area down here. I forgot all about that. But yeah, all right. All right. Thanks there, everyone. We'll see you on the next live. If you have any questions about this, drop me a note in the comment section or whatnot when this gets to posting and whatnot. And yeah, always a fun time.